Hello. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about us now. It's all about you, but right now it's about us because I'm sure you would like to know about myself and my wife, some of our history, the experience, the credentials that we have, because you don't want to be signing up to some course and receiving things from people who have no knowledge, no experience of what they're doing. Some history about myself, and I guess one of the reasons I finished up in the deliverance ministry, like I think many people and maybe yourself, I suffered a lot of abuse and violence as a child. My father was a master in the Masonic Lodge. He was also psychologically affected after the war, and he suffered abuse and rejection as a child himself. So as I was growing up, my father was in and out of the Repat Hospital down in Melbourne, Victoria. He nearly died a number of times. He came back with malaria. That then turned into a form of dermatitis, and he was constantly having blood transfusions and special baths, and it was a very difficult time. The skin would literally fall off his body, especially in the summer, and he would be itching and aggravated. He would get angry, and especially after he joined the Masonic Lodge, he became a master in the Masonic Lodge, it seemed that anger increased. I experienced that even from the cot. I don't remember it, but my grandparents and mother told me about that. My mother also was dabbling into witchcraft, and so I got a little involved with her as well. But it was the abuse and the violence and the criticism that I experienced from my father. He would get so angry, so frustrated, and he would just lash out at me, beat me, whatever it would be at the time. We had a house down in Victoria. Most of the houses were on stumps back then. There was usually, around a metre of room between the ground and the floorboards, and if I heard Dad's car come home, or if I'd copped, pardon me, that's my phone again, or if I'd copped a bit of a beating, Dad, I would crawl underneath the house and, as it were, lick my wounds there and talk to my dog and tell her all about it. She was my best companion, Trixie her name was. But anyway, it was because of that, just the abuse, the criticism. I grew up very rejected. I felt very inferior, unaccepted. But I also grew up very angry because there was this spirit of Antichrist that had come down through the generations. I inherited from my father. And you find with people, they either tend to withdraw or they become aggressive. I just happened to be one of those people who was often aggressive. In fact, if you get into some of the other subjects, I talk about anger because of the pain in my life. If I was rejected or criticised, anything like that, I could get extremely angry because of the pain that I felt. I hid that through pride. I tried to put on a good face as though nothing worried me, and I tried to even kid myself that I was okay, but underneath it all, I was really just a shell, just surviving. In fact, it was when I was 30 years of age. At this stage, I'd been married twice. I just had a young daughter, 3 months of age, who died of a cot death. Life had been pretty tough to me, and I'd been pretty tough to it. I was a very angry person. I'd been involved in a lot of things, and theft and drinking, and I'd done boxing, karate, all of those things. But I got to the age of 30, and my second marriage with my wife, not my wife now, was not good. I wasn't a Christian, and she was in terrible depression because of her daughter dying. I remember going out into the bush. I put the rifle barrel in my mouth, my finger on the trigger, and I was thinking to myself, well, if this is life, I'm just shortcutting it. I can't put up with another 40 years or so of this type of pain. And it was at that moment that God flashed a picture of my mother's face in front of me. And I realised that she wouldn't cope with that. I wasn't a very compassionate person, but God knew that would be the thing that would make me put that gun away, which I did. I went back home it was only a few weeks after that that a Salvation Army captain was walking around the streets knocking on doors. He knocked on our door and started to speak to us a little bit. I became interested in what he was saying, and it was not long after that that I finished up at a Pentecostal evangelistic meeting at Miami, at the Great Hall there on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And on my second night there, I went forward, repented of my sins, accepted Jesus as my Lord, and I instantly knew I had a Heavenly Father who loved me. Fortunately, it was only a couple of weeks after that that I was able to be set free. I began to manifest in a meeting one night. The pastor came and some of the people prayed. They had a little back room, and they took me up there and explained things to me, and I repented, and I had some wonderful deliverance. Very strong spirits that came out of me, and that was life-changing. I felt I went from the depths of depression and hopelessness to feeling free, and that I did have a hope. And so I was very thankful for the ministry of deliverance. Now, I had other deliverances after that. There was a lot of cleaning in my life, many generations of things that had to be dealt with. And it was probably about 12 months after that I met a woman who was involved in the deliverance ministry, and I think firstly she might have done some deliverance with me, and then she must have felt that I had an ability for that, or whatever, or that God had placed something in my heart for it. And I went around with her at times to various meetings, and I would help her minister. I learned from her. It was like a craft. She taught me many things, and it was really wonderful. And so that was 33 years ago when I got saved. So it's been quite a journey. But I have to say, I thank God for deliverance. It's such an important thing. And as I mentioned in one of the other videos, we've seen thousands of people's lives absolutely transformed and turned around because of the ministry of deliverance.